evening, everyone. Before we start, may I kindly request everyone to settle down, take their seats, and please put your phones aside. I am Shefali Agarwal, Ehsaas woman of Kolkata. Welcome you all to an exceptional book unveiled event, Kitaab. Kitaab is a book launch event organized by the Prabha Khaitan Foundation in association with the Esha women of Kolkata. Before we proceed, please allow me to acquaint you with the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. The Prabha Khaitan Foundation is a non-profitable trust committed to the humanitarian and socio-cultural causes. Late Dr. Prabha Khaitan established it as a charitable trust in the early 1980s. Based in Calcutta, it is committed to supporting women's empowerment, gender equality, literature, culture, and performing arts. The Foundation's multifaceted initiatives include the Writer's Circle, Kalam, Aakhar, Kitaab, and Author's Afternoon, Loves, Ek Mulaqat, Chatterjee, The Universe Writes, to name a few. These fall under the diverse verticals of literature and language, culture and heritage, social welfare and women empowerment. Of the literary initiatives, Kitaab occupies a unique significance to us, marking the emergence of each book and offering authors a stage to present their latest literary work to an insightful and discerning audience. An anthem of the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, which you all heard playing in the background during the high tea, deserves mention because it is inspired by the national philosophy, unity in diversity. The anthem has been curated by the musical genius Pandit Vishnu Bhattji. It reflects the true essence of multicultural diversity in India. Today's impeccably curated gathering is to honor the latest literary masterpiece by today's guest author, Bhaavna Arora. Bhaavna Arora is a best-selling author renowned for her compelling storytelling and meticulous research. With 5 widely acclaimed books to her name, she has carved a niche in literature, especially for her works centered around the Indian Army. 3 of her books focused on the armed forces, 2 of which are non-fiction. Her latest book, Nagrota Under Siege, is a testament to her dedication. Crafted after extensive interviews with officers, families, elite, para-commanders, National Investigation Agency, officials, and even jailed terrorists. Bhaavna's narratives celebrate the courage and valor of India's armed forces, bringing to light the emotional nuances of soldiers and their families. Her work has earned praise for her depth, authenticity, and ability to humanize the sacrifices of those in uniform, offering readers a profound connection to the stories of bravery and resilience. A very warm welcome to you, Bhaavna. I would now like to welcome our chief guest for this evening, Lieutenant General Ramchandra Tiwari, PVSM, UYSM, AVSM, SM. It is an absolute honor to have you amongst us today. Lieutenant Ramchandra Tiwari, PVSM, UYSM, AVSM, SM, is a GOC in C, Eastern Command, and a colonel of Kumaon and Naga regiments and Kumaon Scouts. An alumnus of the National Defence Academy and Indian Military Academy, he was commissioned into Fort Kumaon in 1987. With 37 years of distinguished service, he has held key command and staff positions, including leading major counterinsurgency and high-altitude operations. He has been honoured with the Param Vashisht Seva Medal, Uttam Yudh Seva Medal, Ati Vashisht Seva Medal, and Sena Medal for his exemplary leadership. Lieutenant General Tiwari has also represented India in United Nations missions and attended prestigious military programs in India and abroad. A very warm welcome to you, sir. In conversation today, today's guest author is Srinjoy Chowdhury, a well-known journalist, author, and quizmaster. A journalist for over 4 decades, He began his career in 1984 with Sunday in Kolkata. He has worked for the Telegraph and the Statesman in New Delhi. He joined Times Now in 2005 and is currently consulting editor, National Affairs. His area of interest ranges from foreign policy and national security to sport. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Chowdhury. I now request Bhaavna Arora, Lieutenant General Tiwari, and Srinjoy Chowdhury to please grace the stage. We will have a huge round of applause for the guests. May I now request and invite Esha, Dutta, Ehsaas woman of Calcutta and Honorary Convenor of the Northeast Affairs of the Prabha Khaitan Foundation to please felicitate our guests. Prabha Khaitan Foundation advocates promoting cross-state cultural appreciation with each culture added to the nation's social character. Keeping this in mind, we are pleased to felicitate the guests with chicken curry dupatta. Chicken curry is a century-old and embroidery art form from Lucknow, renowned for its delicate craftsmanship, where artisans meticulously hand-stitch intricate motifs using fine-quality thread. Now, for the moment we all have been waiting for, the launch of the book Nagrota Under Siege. To join us, I would like to invite Anindita Chatterjee, Executive Trustee of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, and Ms. Esha, please come on the stage, please. I would now request our chief guest, Lieutenant General Chander Tiwari, PVSM, UYSM, AVSM, SMI, to unveil the book. Thank you everyone. Kindly take your seats. May I now request Bhaavna Arora to say a few words.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Justice and gratitude should never be delayed. So I open my speech with a deep sense of gratitude towards the Army Commander and the entire team of Eastern Command for showing me so much of love and acceptance, not only to me but also to my work. Thank you to each one of you who's made it here. This not only means so much to me, but also to the families of the soldiers working in action during the Nagrota attack. Thank you, Prabha Khaitan Foundation and the ladies of Eshaas for putting up such a marvelous show. We speak here today not because I've written books, but because we've bonded with a deep sense of love, the love for the Indian Army. As an author and professional, I have traveled across the length and breadth of the world. Harvard, Sloan School of Business. But the most important lessons of my life I've learned right here in this organization. This feels like home, and you all feel like family. Talking about lessons, I went for a run in the morning across the camp. The rising sun, chirping of the birds, and Sarv Dhar Sthal. Some things never change, and they shouldn't. My childhood came rolling down in front of my eyes. Talking about change, I'm privileged and honored to be speaking here in front of you in Vijaypur, formerly known as Fort William. Some things should be changed. In a nutshell, I'm a fourth generation army kid, determined and very passionate about bringing out the stories of our brave Indian soldiers. And I do this job with utmost sincerity and responsibility. I want to make sure that the names like Umar Fiaz, Major Akshay Girish, Major Kunal Musavi, Naik Chittaranjan, and Major Kunal resonate with every household of India. This job wasn't very easy about a decade ago when I started writing. The books on the Indian Army did not have a mass market. So my concerned father, seeing my determination, told me, Munna, pyar pe likho, pyar bikta hai, love sells. I didn't have a love story then. I don't have it now. But in the course of writing on the soldiers, I discovered love. And I went back to my father and I told him, isn't a boy passionate about joining the Indian Armed Forces a love story? Isn't he stepping on the Antim pug to get those 2 shining stars on his shoulders a love story? Isn't his romance with his rifle a love story? Isn't he standing up with his comrades in a battlefield saying, "Tu piche rahe, main aage jaunga, tere beevi bache," a love story? God forbid, God forbid. Isn't he coming back wrapped in a tricolor? A love story. Isn't a father trading his son for that tricolor a love story? Or for that matter, a husband for a wife? Isn't me writing on that boy a love story? ये किताब नहीं है, ये मोहब्बत है. I hope and pray that I don't have to dip my pen in the blood of these soldiers because my brother is one of them. But till the time it's happening, I will keep writing. Jai Hind.
Without further ado, I request Mr. Chowdhury to please take start the conversation.
Thank you. I was a little surprised by Mr. Chowdhury because in the world that I am, there are 22-year-old boys and girls who call me and say, "Srinjoy, come in, quickly." The word is fun, or at least my word is fun. But thank you anyway. Exceedingly courteous of you. Now, it's your book, and you tell me. Because this is such an exceedingly overwhelming book. I was so impressed when I read it. I read it in one shot, which is not what I do usually. I was very impressed by the way you did it.
इन्हें पैसे देके नहीं बिठाया है, इन्होंने असल में किताब रखी है.
And to tell you the truth, I read it in one shot, and that's not often when I do it. And the book I compared it with initially was surprising because while this didn't have that many casualties, each death, each casualty is a tragedy. But I found it in some ways similar to Cornelius Ryan's Battle of Agarwal, which was fought over 1 month and 1 million people died. On both sides plus civilians. That's quite a battle, as you know. So, what impressed me was the idea, the fact that you thought of Nagrota, and the fact that you did such extensive research. I also like the book for a very selfish personal reason. The first reason is the fact that the foreword, a very touching one, has been written by one of my closest friends. And I have great admiration for that man. Number 2, during that crisis, I was in Agarwal. I had interviewed the army commander the previous day, and I was setting out back to Delhi from Chander when the news broke. And I said, I'm not going to Delhi when this huge terror attack is taking place. So I drove to Nagrota, and as far inside as the police allowed me, I was there the whole day, did the operation. I naturally was passing on breaking stored information about it. And I can tell you my source is long retired. The information didn't come from Nagrota. It didn't come from Delhi. It came from Dutta, from the Agarwal. And his last message is the one end. He said, anti-terrorists have been neutralized. And as he told me that, I got up, I go with my camera. And there were lots of people in that place, NLAs, the odd NP, they all knew something had happened. And I put it on. So I thank all these people I know so well over these years who helped me with my work. And the least I can do is ask you the first question I was thinking of.
Thank you.
Brilliant research. Brilliant idea, brilliant research. Where did it begin?
I always say this when people ask me, like, what made you write this book? So not always you go looking for stories. Sometimes stories come looking for you. This goes beyond the cosmic connection. And now when I look back and the start of my journey to 5 years and now, the Kumbh Mela, I will tell you the intensity, the Kumbh Mela, I have gone ahead and did Snan with Major Akshay Girish's mother. I didn't even go with my parents. It was one of the soldiers who was taken action. And this is the kind of relationship that I've built with them. So it's just not about writing a book, writing a book is a small aim that you have in mind, but I'm here on a mission to make sure that these unsung heroes reach every Indian household. These names resonate with the Indian youth and they get inspired and motivated to join the forces. So that's my mission. So I think that answers your question. And the second one that you Lieutenant General Vinod Khandare.
Yeah.
So Lieutenant General Vinod Khandare is Bhaavna Arora's father's regiment. So she just asked me that why don't you give. So what happens is when you're writing a book, you also need to have at the back of your mind you need to have the research in place, you need to have the marketing in place, because if you write and it doesn't reach the intended audience, it gets lost somewhere. So she said, I wanted to have all the acknowledgements, and I also wanted to take the reviews of the soldiers, the civilians, and if I've anywhere gone wrong in the research, I wanted their feedback. So I sent the book for a review to Lieutenant General Khandare. And when he got back to me, he says, Bhaavna, I am going to be writing the foreword for this book. And listening this from you, that he's, the way that you're associated with him, I feel very privileged, that he wrote the foreword for the book. And I didn't know him, but of course now I know him after he's written the foreword and I've interacted with him. He's a very, very fine officer. And his inputs were greatly appreciated.
General Khandare's work as an officer is still classified. There are one or two things that are not in the public domain and we don't want to go there. But the important thing is, of course, he would have helped you with the book. But the most important thing about this book, I'm so impressed by it, is the fact that it's very human. When you read the first 80, 100 pages of it, you get to meet all these young officers and you see a little of yourself in them. The fact that their parents told them to study hard, sure you might be. The fact that they went out and met young people and they fell in love, they got married, they had children. And as you're reading the book, you tell yourself, well, that one's like me. So the important thing is that it tells you straight off that we are our people. They are us and we are them. There's no difference. And that's a very apart from you. There's no difference. We are all the same kind of people.
Yes.
And that struck me as something remarkable.
Thank you, Srinjoy. So, again, when you read military books, they're very binary. 0-1. Operations are binary. So, when I'm asked, what is the most difficult part about writing such books? Is it the operational details? Is it the research, going here and there? So those are binary. The operational researches are very binary. What is most difficult is that emotional bit, the emotional part. We're talking about families and their resilience. So I think that needs a lot of empathy. So I think that's where my strength lies. I connect with the families not on a very binary, on a surgical level. I connect with them on a very empathetic level, and that's the reason why it reads the way it reads.
The other thing, and I would recommend this book for just that alone, is the visual possibilities of this book. As I was reading it, there was this bit when a young officer, she is very concerned about like missing voice. And she thinks the fact that she's escaping, it's all in her mind. And the most visual moment of the book is when she opens the door and in front of her is a cobra. And that cobra has been in the house, in her room, for about a month. And there are images like that, those spectacles that were found. Remarkable that everybody missed that pair of spectacles.
Thank you, Srinjoy. We'll let Sir leave and then we'll continue the conversation because I think the audience is interested, but Sir has a lot of work.
Yeah, I just like to compliment Bhaavna. I think a wonderful effort. Natural rights are basically that person who's connected with the literary world so much, Srinjoy, and he's so interested. Plus the fact that he gave me the book, I was able to glance through it. I could read it properly, but I was able to glance through it. Fantastic work. Compliments to you. Her name was recommended to me by a gentleman called General Himaya, somebody for whom I have a tremendous amount of regard. General Himaya being a regimental officer, and she's a regimental daughter. Her brother is also in the army, fourth generation. They are, I think, the bonds are just too strong. So I'm not surprised that it came from you, and my compliments to you. My compliments also to Prabha Khaitan Foundation and also to Prayas. All the very best. I'm sorry I have to leave because I've got some other engagement. I promised her that I'll be here. I have to leave, I'm so sorry.
No, so you give me more than your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you and God bless. God bless. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Looking eyeball to eyeball, not at the enemy, but a cobra that's been in her room for a month. Brilliant moment.
Okay, so I have my childhood friend here, Payal. She'll be able to tell you how scared I am of snakes. You know, I've got this phobia of snakes. I'm not worried if it's going to bite me or I am only scared just looking at it, you know, and I faint at the sight of it. So in Mahakumbh, there was one boy who came with a small little basket and he just opened it right in my face. I almost fainted. The job of my cook was to open the newspaper in the morning, and if there was a picture of a snake, he was supposed to, you know, color it with a whitener or something so that I don't see it. The phobia is that bad. And imagine when I'm listening to that lady, so when you write, you just close yourself. You know, a lot of writers, they say that they go and connect with the nature and then they write. And I don't do that. I just close myself in a dark room. I just need my laptop or my pen and paper. And I go into the visuals of what the other person has told me. And I think that's why it comes out as vivid. And so imagining that cobra. It wasn't a very easy job for me, Srinjoy, but I did it.
Really, that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. There is another section which is perhaps enthralling as well. There is this little baby, and if she starts crying, then the terrorists get to know that these people are in the room. So she has to be fed milk. And this is such a pivotal moment of the book. When you read it and you go through those chapters, those paragraphs, and the first thing that occurs to you is, my God, this is such a close call. Again, very vividly written. I can't tell you how vividly it's written. And I felt very impressed when I read that bit. So there were sections, and then this finding of the spectacles. Everyone's been there, done that, and everyone missed those spectacles. And yet they were found, and the way they were found. These are the things that this make the book becomes a great book because of moments like these. See, when you write a book like this, people are going to ask, is this one, does she have one great book in her? Or does she have another one?
Okay, now
So what happens
two
now?
things that you mentioned, Srinjoy. One is about that lady feeding her 8 months. So just imagine a lady, there's firing all over. There are 3 terrorists and then there is counter firing going on. And this lady is stuck in the midst of it with a small 8-month-old baby and she's supposed to feed. So, of course, I've described everything what she went through. But the end of it, she says that, Bhaavna, finally my husband called me on and he said, we're coming to rescue you. This is the password. One person will knock at the door. These many knocks. You will knock from inside, whatever the protocol was. Just pick up the bare essentials. Don't pick up more stuff, just pick up the bare essentials. And she actually sat down and thought, what are her bare essentials? She said, Bhaavna, at that time, I picked up my baby and my mother's. I think these were the only 2 important things in my life. And my life has changed ever since. So imagine, a woman going through such an ordeal in her life and then coming out strong and surviving that ordeal. So yes.
What's the next step? See, critics are very sort of tough guys. Actually, as Chander told, Lieutenant General, when I wrote my first book, he said, don't worry about what critics say. 95% of them have never written a book. I thought about it later, I realized how correct he was. Now, when someone writes a book like this, the next question is, can she write another book of this quality? So the next point is, are you looking at another book? Are you thinking of another book? Is it going to be on something like this, or is it going to be something entirely different?
I just said that, I'll keep writing. Till the time it's happening, I'll keep writing. I don't think I'll stop writing. So, once a journalist asked me, how difficult is writing for you? How to take out time, and how difficult it is to bring out these stories. So I asked him, how difficult is it for you to breathe? That's what it is. Writing is like breathing for me. I don't think I can ever stop writing.
That's the nicest thing I've heard in a long time. It's so inspirational. Because I find it so difficult to write. Every time I start, there's either a plain sheet of paper or a computer with nothing on it. I don't have the ability that you have, which is why I'm only merely asking you the questions on a book that you have written.
I'm already inspiring you. I'm already inspiring you.
It's very difficult to write. If you were making, let's say, if you're directing a play, if you're part of a play, you have actors, you have directors, you have music, you have light, you have all kinds of things. A book, strangely enough, is just yourself and that scrap of paper, the back of the envelope, or a blank. So it's much more difficult in some senses. So the fact that you've done what you've done is actually very, very credible.
The kind of books that I write, I'm just not writing a book. I'm carrying a lot of promises with me. I've made a promise to a mother, I've made a promise to a wife, I've made a promise to a father, I've made a promise to a girlfriend, and I have to keep those promises. So probably I think that's my inspiration of keep going and finishing it and writing it down. So I don't give up because of the promises that I've made to those people.
Well done. I'm also happy to see so many people. Usually I go to a book launch, there are 4 people and a dog, as I say all the time. And sometimes there are more because there's alcohol to be served after the book launch. So at least people hang around for the beer. But I'm so grateful that there are so many people, and thank you all of you for coming. You're looking at questions. Yes, sir. Questions be to her and nobody really.
Bhaavna, how much time did it take for you to write the book?
So Undaunted took me 2 years. Nagrota Under Siege took me 5 years. It took a longer time because I had to get in touch with the NIA Army is still easier, let me tell you, because if they can give a thing, they'll give it to you. If they can't give a thing, they'll say it's classified. The next one that I wanted to write is absolutely a classified operation, so the proposal was rejected. But when it comes to NIA, police, prison, it takes a little more time. And it also takes a little more time, and I give it time because I think it's important that people understand the intent behind writing it, and I don't want to push it. So when they see it coming, लोग अपने आप झुकते रहते हैं. So it took me 5 years. This one. Also because of किताबों में पैसा नहीं है, there's no money in books. You have to, spend to write books sometimes because the research work that you do. So also you have a job going on in the side, so you have to take care of that as well. I have to earn my bread and butter, I have to feed my cats in the house. So yes.
I can't agree more, but do I see anyone asking questions? Yes, sir. Right to the back. Ma'am, yes.
As you said in the beginning, that these army books do not have much marketing. What about the publishing process? As I can say, it is a timing, additional publishing. Do they accept it easily for publishing? And
would it be better if I stand here? Yeah? No, I think I'll visible. Okay, may I have the name, ma'am?
Shalini, this is Shalini.
So, Shalini, when I started writing Untold, Left No More Flowers of Kashmir, I've already written 3 books. Honestly, I always wanted to write on the Indian Army. Between you and me, so you were there as a reporter. So I'll share this small little anecdote with you. What inspired me to write on the forces? So I'm a type 1 diabetic, and since the age of 10. We had gone to my father he was supposed to be 15 go during the Kabul war, and छुट्टियों में हम पापा को मिलने के लिए जाया करते थे. We went to Srinagar, Badami Bagh cantonment, and as a diabetic I have to keep my exercises, the routine and everything in place. So I went out for a run, and my sugars dropped. We were supposed to actually go back, so we were not getting flights, so we were asked. Our stay was prolonged for another 10 days, and my blood sugar levels fell down and I fainted. So I was admitted into the base hospital, and in that base hospital was where the soldiers were coming, the wounded soldiers, some dead bodies. As a young girl, as a young teenager, I happened to hear those stories from those people, and then I realized, oh my God, do the people even know what these soldiers are doing for us? इनको मालूम भी है what are they doing for us? And that was the time when a seed was planted. I was a young teenager. Said maybe one day I'm going to write. So that one day came, and in 2017 I wrote Undaunted, Left No More Flowers of Kashmir. 2014 I wrote my first book. I wanted to enter into the publishing industry. And there was no market for army books. Mistress of Honor was a hardcore military book. Since Sir just spoke about Jal Thimaya, so Jal Thimaya was a part of Operation Blue Star. I've grown up listening to these stories of bravery, and I've put them down in a fictional, strong military operational backdrop. And I went out with that book. They said no market for this book. It got rejected. Again, my dad said, Munna, love story dekho. I didn't have a love story. That's Papa, I don't have a love story. How do you expect me to write a love story?
Sir, you have a question.
Hi, Bhaavna. Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
I'm Shukriyo, and I'm an independent filmmaker. As you said, there is no money in books. So is the case with independent filmmaking. But still, the very title of the book gives me a kind of sense it's a good case for filmmaking. Would you be open for giving rights for making film on this? Although I haven't gone through the book, obviously.
I've got offers for both the books, Untold as well as Nagrota Under Siege. But it's your baby. You want to hand it over to a person who can responsibly bring out the authentic story. So sometimes what happens is you give a script and what they give you back is absolutely not the book or not the story. Keeping the creative freedom in mind, and it just gets very manipulated.
Actually, you want to have a script which is as passionate and conforms to the storyline of it.
I think Srinjoy agrees with it. He told me this, that it reads like a screenplay. Even a lot of newspaper reviews have said this, that it reads like a screenplay. It's very vivid. So hopefully one day we should see it on big screen. Why did I get the right people for it?
I would like to keep in touch with you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ma'am, on the left.
Good evening. I'm an academician, a professor of English. My name is Professor Shefali. I want to ask you something related to my passion for literature. You are no stranger to the war, to the army life, because you say that you are a fourth generation army kid. So when you were writing this book, what kind of a transformative experience or epiphany, if any, did you experience from what you have known as being an army person all your life and from what you emerged into once the books were finished, especially this book?
Thank you so much. It's a very good question.
And just before you answer that, Srinjoy, I was lucky enough to have a copy of the 25th anniversary edition of your book on Kargil. So for the two of you, why can't we just get together and push for this to be included in syllabi, at least at the undergraduate level, as a genre?
Well, thank you. I have a sort of part answer to your question. The late General Bipin Rawat, months before the terrible accident, he told me that book of yours, Kitaab. So I said, he said, yeah. He said, I want it to be read compulsorily at the NDA. And he said, you give me a copy, I'm sending it across. And I must have given it to him a few days before he went.
I'm talking about this at every UG level because a lot of new literature is coming in. There is a revised syllabi for new education policy. So every child, every student who's going to be a nation builder should know this genre.
Well, if you can do it, I'll be so glad.
I'll try.
I don't know what Bhaavna, but I definitely
I'll try.
will be glad.
I promise to try. I don't know if I can do it, but I'll try my best.
The mathematics of books being what they are, I promise you, in India, I'm told by publishers that very few people read books. So very few people sell books. Well, books get sold. Unless, in two areas, I've said this before, and you heard it last time. The two books that sell a lot, one is about food. People want to know what to eat and how to cook. And conversely, about dieting, how to lose weight. So I only wrote a book about war.
No, but we should all, on a serious note, see how this can be taken to every young mind in the country. If not at the school level, then definitely at the UG level.
Well, I'll be extremely glad. Ma'am.
Okay. This is a continuation. That's one of my professors, so you can hear it.
Thanks, Srinjoy and Bhaavna. I would start with a comment, not a question.
I think Bhaavna has something to say.
Yes, to my question. She has an answer. The transformative experience of knowing and then emerging as a writer.
Again, I'll share a small anecdote. So I was going to pay my condolences to Umar Fiaz's family. I was supposed to be stationed in Shopia district गाड़ी में पत्थर पड़ चुके थे, सीओ के साथ झगड़ा हो चुका था. I had thought of maybe, climbing the walls and going off, but then I was reminded prosecutors are not, they're not prosecuting, they're shot. So when I went to pay my condolences to the family, I think the only language that we spoke was of tears. Because going to a martyr's family, you relate to it at many levels. You relate it to at a family level, then a regimental level, then an army level, then the forces level, and then an Indian nationalist level. So it had just been a month that they lost their son. And I don't know, मैं अपने क्या condolences pay करने गई थी. I think they were consoling me at the end of it. So the sister asked me, I'd gone with a local guy and they said, मैम किताब लिखना चाहती है. ऐसे नहीं, आज मैं किताब में इंटरव्यू नहीं करूँगी. I've just come to pay my condolences and I'm carrying the condolences of so many postmates, so many people, so many friends, so many Indians. And then she said, आपके घर में कौन कौन है? ऐसे मम्मा है, पापा है, भाई है. And then I realized that if I ever have to step into the shoes of this woman, I think that's where the empathy comes. I think this is a very life-changing moment for me. Because you relate to it. I mean, if I have to ever step into her shoes, I would say that death comes to me before it comes to my brother. You take it upon you and not your family members. So, yeah, answering that question.
One was a comment. When you began about the various love stories you were writing, I think it was a moment that immersed me completely. So congratulations for putting it that way. I don't have an army background that way, but we are all citizens of India and we are all nourished and nurtured by them. Right? They are looking after the borders and we are sleeping peacefully at home. That's the kind of scenario we would like to. This is just Srinjoy, before Shabina has this, changing of the syllabi and all that, can we have authors like you come and speak to us to read the book? They get familiar with the story. This is a genre that is coming up. We are twinning with times now for the author visiting the classroom.
If you really want to know, I've written this book. I wrote my first book 25 years ago. My second book is on, what is that called? Netflix.
814, Flight 814.
Yeah. In these 25 years, I've never been invited to a saintly literary festival. Nor have I ever, before this one, been invited to a book launch to either speak in any capacity. Of course, this was 4 days ago, there was one. Before these 4, and the initial book launches by Penguin, there's never been anything. So, I feel very honored that we thought of such an idea.
So, because as she said, changing a syllabi is a lot of protocol, a lot of process, and it's very difficult to do that. But if Bhaavna, you're willing to
I'll answer this for you. So while I was still writing the book, Nagrota Under Siege, so my neighbor's daughter, she was given an assignment. She was given an assignment to write on our Indian heroes. And the first name was Major Lakshmi. So that strength of mind, she got in touch with me. She's like, you're writing a book, on Major Lakshmi. Should I get some information? That was the first time information that I gave her, to that little kid. And my God, what speech! I think she marketed my book even before it was published. To know more about my book, please read Nagrota Under Siege by my friend Bhaavna Arora.
There's one other thing in this book which I found very positive. A lot of times books are written, and most of the stuff that is written is about officers, especially in the English language. Her book is entirely different because there are two people that are written about in depth, Lakvinder and Devbarma, who were both awards and both certified heroes. They were enormous They had an enormous presence as far as the operation was concerned. And again, I'm very grateful that they were mentioned in the way that they were.
Lakwinder was a part of the operation, the operation from beginning till the end. And when I got in touch with him, he came all the way from Punjab to Nagrota to show me the incident site, because I went to the incident site at least 3 times. One, because I wanted to know where these people served, where Major Lakshmi was, where Major Kunal was. Second, when I wanted to know the paras point of view, like how paras conducted the operation, they said, ma'am, we had 3 hillocks. So I wanted to really know what was the distance. He said we couldn't get a range from that hillock, so we had to go another hillock, So I was doing a video call with that para commander and I was like asking him, sir, was this hillock, that hillock? And Lakwinder was there with me. He was showing me the bullets on the gate. They're still there. I'm telling यहाँ से terrorist आए, उसने यहाँ पे bullet मारा gate पे. Then they went here. Lakwinder was also one of those soldiers who jumped from the first floor where Major Kunal got him. And he shouted, "Saapko goli lagi hai, saapko goli." So imagine, it's a duplex house, not a duplex, what you call flats. So the first floor of the terrace, he jumped from there. He took out his turban, he tied it very tightly, on Major Kunal, but unfortunately he could not save him. And he put him in the ambulance, and then he again came back and he told one of the JCOs there कि साहब मेरे को cover fire दो, अगर आप cover fire नहीं देंगे तो मैं आपको उठा नहीं पाऊंगा, आप मैगजीन खाली कर देना, मैं प्रॉमिस करता हूँ मैं दोबारा आके आपको मैगजीन दूंगा. And he kept his word. He again came back, gave the magazine to that JCO, and then carried out the operation again. And he was there with the paras also. So he'd come for the launch of the book while we were in Delhi. The Deputy Chief Stratcom launch was there. And Lakwinder was there. So when I narrated this anecdote, so he stood up and everybody clapped for him. He was a part of the launch. He came on the stage, he launched the book. And now you won't believe it, he's an inspiration in Punjab. He goes and motivates children in colleges and schools to join the Indian Army. He's talking, on YouTube. And it feels so nice, I can't believe. I think maybe, this story has given him that platform and has made him a national hero, and he very well deserves that.
Yes.
Hi, Bhaavna. We were chatting earlier, you were telling us some more of the anecdotes, but you've done extensive research, which is obvious for the genre you're dealing with. Can you share some more? Because you were telling us some very interesting snippets. So I thought it would be nice for the audience to know.
So I'll just read out so in the book, I hope the conversation is interesting and we're not just keeping you people.
Yes, very interesting.
Okay, so in the book, I have written a note to my readers. So I say, this book is not a work of fiction, but a story based on successive research on attack that took place in 2016 in the Nagrota cantonment by 3 Jaish-e-Mohammed fidais or terrorists. All characters and incidents in this work are real. There is an absolute resemblance to the people living or dead and is coincidental. I claim every responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions. This piece of work is not solely for entertainment, but to sensitize my readers to the sacrifices our armed forces make towards keeping us safe. I have given 5 years of my life to bring this story to you. I have performed my prescribed duties without expecting any fruits of my action. While working, I gave up the pride of doership. I offer my work to God. I offer my work to the readers.
Well done.
So on the whole, I'm taking the entire accountability of whatever I've written here and whatever has actually happened. So for this, the story started with Major Lakshmi. It became the story of 2 more soldiers killed in action, Major Kunal and Chatterjee. Then it became the story of para-commandos. Fortunately, one of the para-commandos who was involved in this operation and who nabbed the third terrorist, who was the most notorious and who got all our people, except 2, was shot by him. He took a headshot of that third terrorist. So fortunately, he got retired, and again it was a cosmic connection that this entire operation could be put here. Otherwise, paras are very, very confidential about their operations. They don't tell you, they don't speak. I tried my level best to get to the 9 paras, they don't speak. If he's in service, even if they're retired, usually they don't speak. So fortunately, this officer was retired, and he was serving as he was serving in police, and he could talk about the operation. So I was fortunate there. And then I wanted to do the interviews with the investigating officers of NIA. Because in 2018, the NIA made 3 arrests, 4 arrests. 3 felines को हमने मार ही दिए थे और जो 4 local aides थे. So when these Jaish-e-Mohammed people, they come into the area, they need local aid, right? So that local aid has done a lot of investigation of that place. They've done a recce, they've taken the coordinates. The army people sitting here would know all of this. So they take the coordinates and then they tell them, they go to receive them. Then the ammunition and everything is given to them. So those 4 local aides were arrested by NIA. They followed a trail of a pistol. So I wanted to interview these investigating officers now who are part of IB and the big people. So I got in touch. I don't have a godfather any there, but still I got in touch with one of the officers and I said, sir, I want to write this book, I want to bring out this story, and this is my intent behind writing this story. So could you get me to these investigating officers? So he said, why investigating officers? Why don't you go and interview these terrorists in jail? So this is like getting God in hands. Please send me. So I went all the way to Port Agarwal and Central Jail to interview those 4 terrorists. They're still in jail. Hopefully they should be hanged. And though the NIA says that we have a very strong case against them, but they're still in jail. Abhi tak hearing nahi aayi hai. So I interviewed all 4 of them there. So that was the level of research that I had done.
So did you find them outspoken? Like, did they talk? I mean, their fate is almost sealed, but
how was your interaction with them? How did that go?
I think I'm the most non-threatening human being. So they were pretty open. They actually thought that I had come from human rights. So a lot of ladies come to interview them and show compassion and show their love and empathy. But मैंने तो अपना पर्स खोला, मैंने पुलिस वाले को बोला, मेरे को मेरे जितने पैसे आप दे दो, इनको एक बार दान भी कर दो. You don't worry, मैंने भी पहली दान की है. So yeah, because I'm relating to those tears. I've heard a mother cry. I'm listening to these stories day in and day out. When I look at them and you just want to like.
So did they give a background of the operation, like how it conceived?
They were not aware of the operation. They were not aware as to what is going to happen. वहाँ तक तो बताते ही नहीं हैं कि क्या होगा. So they were not aware of the operation, but when it happened, they knew that they are in for something big. One of them was a double agent in layman languages because we our army and police would act on their information, on his information, and a lot of times he's given like grade A1 information, and we've acted and evaded a lot of attacks. But somehow he was getting more money for this Nagrota attack. His wife had cancer. So that was the reason he didn't give the information about his Nagrota attack. Otherwise, we could have saved a lot of lives.
So when you spoke to him, this guy, so I mean, it is only because of that he needs more money because of his wife's treatment that he got into both Indian and the terrorist side. Is it because of that, or he had this whole thing in mind that against India?
They have a jihadis in mind. So it was not just these 4 people that I had spoken to. I had also spoken to the police there, the jailers were looking after them, and And once they're in judicial custody, the police cannot raise their hands or anything on them. They have to treat them nicely. So वहाँ पे भी बहुत brother करते थे वो. They were saying yes, all of them have to and sometimes the jail is just a place for maybe plotting another attack like that. And I don't want to say much because I don't have the authority, but yes, this is the information that I got from them. So they keep them separately also because one of them who was an approver was kept in central jail, 3 of them were in Port Bazaar. So that also happens.
Any more questions? Actually, our work with the NI was very good. Excellent.
Excuse me, just I was just so entranced by what you were saying, and it's really amazing to see a young person like you put in so much passion. But you just talked of human rights and this terrorists and your anger.
I'm just happy you called me a young person. Just happy. Let me just absorb in that.
No, it's very inspiring to hear you talk. Very, very inspiring. But why did you be so angry at the jihadis? Why? I mean, from what point of view were you unhappy with the human resource, these people coming to talk to them? And where does that anger come from? Because you're from the...
You're talking about these 4 terrorists?
Yes.
What have they done?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
They've claimed 7 lives. They've claimed 2 officers and 7 jawans. It was almost a hostage-like situation. People are traumatized forever. Today also you go and speak to those families उनके आंसू नहीं सूखे. आज भी आप उनसे बात करोगे तो उतना ही रोएंगे जितना शायद वो पहली बार रोए.
So the terrorists would not have...
आपको तो नहीं गुस्सा आएगा ये सुन के. आप कर क्या रहे थे? वो अड्डे से मैम आपको तो ये कुछ भी बताया था. आप कैसे किसी को बॉर्डर... This is illegal. See, you cannot do things illegitimately. Now, when I wrote Umar Fiyaz of Kashmir, and he was being compared to Burhan Wani. Umar Fiyaz को भी it's a pinned tweet on my Twitter. If you see, I pinned that tweet. So Umar Fiyaz को भी थप्पड़ पड़ा था. Burhan Wani को भी थप्पड़ पड़ा था from the forces. Umar Fiyaz picked up the weapons legitimately. He joined the Indian Army. He was, harbinger of peace. He wanted more people to join the forces, but that was not the case with Burhan Wani. What he was causing was absolute destruction. I mean, how can you just, pick up weapons illegitimately and tell everybody that jihad sentiment ke saath create a ruckus in the nation? So I would never. In fact, I was given an offer to write on Burhan Wani. So those kids were like, "Ma'am, Burhan Wani क्यों लिखे? वो हमारा हीरो है." तो उसपे कौन था? अरे मैम हम लेके जाएंगे आपको चाय पिला के वो कहानी बताएंगे. But मेरा ईमान ही नहीं मानेगा उसकी कहानी. Why should I make it popular? He was a terrorist and we killed him. That's all.
Next question.
Hi Bhaavna, heartiest congratulations to you first of all. As being married to an army officer for about the last 23 years, and every station we need to be rallies. They're a very important agenda of army, and we're looking after them in a very nice manner. And what I feel is a humble request: a life after you lose your husband or your son or your brother is very difficult. So if you can do good research work of what the Veernaris are doing after, because we do it from the army and but none of the others, they're staying in a village, they might be doing a lot of things for the improvement of the village or the society, but they are also unsung heroes for us. And I feel if you can do something on these lines and do a research work on these lines, it will be wonderful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, if you go through Nagrota Under Siege, all that you will see is like the Naris. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bhaavna and Srinjoy, and thank you, Bhaavna, for the last bit. That was quite intriguing. We all had a lot of more questions, but I don't know how much you're allowed to say, how much not, so I won't push. Thank you to our audience as well. Thank you for all your questions and thank you for your presence here this evening. Thank you so much. Have a good night.